Are you familiar with Robert Greene's work, 40 Laws of Power, Art of Seduction, 33 Strategies of War? Have you?
Only as names. I haven't read his books.
Okay, got it. He wrote a book. His last book was Laws of Human Nature. And right after he finished his book, he had a stroke, and not the best kind of stroke. He had a terrible stroke, and his wife had to come and pick him up, and he couldn't walk. We did an interview one time with him. We had to push him in the wheelchair to get him. It took 30 minutes before we got ready to go through it. And I asked him a question. I said, how timely the fact, and every time he was working on the book, I said, how you doing? He says, you know what, I'm sick, and my mom's calling me, telling me, how's the book? I said, Mom, stop asking me about the book. I don't want to tell you about the book. The process of writing a book for somebody as technical as you're not writing a book like, here's the, 7 keys to success, work hard, all this other stuff that maybe you see. You kind of, your brain is, trying to get everything to be perfect. I remember one time I asked you a question about how do you research and how do you write? You said you write and you rewrite and you rewrite. I'm like, how many times do you write? So many times I have to write something on and rewrite. I'm like, wow, very detailed process you go through. How heavy is it on you when you write a book?
I think the only thing I've done that's as hard as writing is clinical work. It's the only thing that requires as much attention. It's unbelievably engaging, but it's unbelievably difficult. And well, I suppose to some degree it's as difficult as you make it, but I'm always trying to answer questions that I genuinely have, and I'm really trying to answer them. And I also, so I have a writing guide online for people who might be interested. You can find that, and it's an actually step-by-step guide through what you actually have to do if you want to write. It's not just hints about what constitutes good writing. It's a practice manual. And we're building a piece of software called Essay App that's designed to help people write better and therefore think better. But I mean, I have an analytic approach to writing to some degree, because I can write, but I also know what I'm doing when I'm writing. So imagine that a piece of work can be analyzed at multiple levels simultaneously. Did you select the right word? Did you select the right phrase? Did you organize the phrases into the proper sentences? Is each sentence as tightly written and carefully argued as it possibly could be? Are the sentences arranged properly in each paragraph? Are the paragraphs arranged properly in each section? Are the sections arranged properly within each larger unit? Does it cohere as a whole? Is it appropriate for the time and the place and the audience? Do the sentences sound poetic when you read them aloud? Do they have a rhythm? I'm trying to answer all those questions, not at the same time, but I try to answer all those questions with every single word I write. And I would say I write every sentence at least 10 or 15 times. And I mean, literally, I take the sentence, I put it on a separate page, and then I rewrite it multiple times, and then I pick the best sentence. And then when I do paragraph editing, I take the paragraph, put it on a separate page, break it into its sentences, rearrange the sentences in multiple variants, and then select the one that works the best. And I do that over and over. And so that's so it's demanding, because the more you get every single one of those things right, the more impact the work has, the clearer you've made the problem, and the more also the other thing, these are books that I've written, even though there are collections of essays, but each essay stands in relationship to the other essays. They're not independent units. They each add something to every other chapter. And so there's a meta meaning that emerges that's a consequence of the relationship between the essays. And I'm thinking about that as well when I'm writing and trying to organize the essays. And it's great for clarity of thought. And one of the things I loved about my conversation with Jocko Willink, because he's this very masculine, very tough man, very admirable person, but on the physical end of things, at least that's what you'd think. But he got an English degree after he was a Navy SEAL, and he did a 20-minute spontaneous proclamation about the unbelievable value of literacy to him, practically speaking. He said, well, he has to write out military strategy. He has to decode orders coming from above. He has to write up commendations for his men. He has to produce battlefield reports. said he's nowhere at all as powerful as he could be without being literate. And literacy is the key to competence in a way that is just not properly communicated to young people. You're deadly if you're literate at everything. And it's because you can think and you can speak. I mean, what do you have that's more than that? There's nothing we have that's more than that. And writing sharpens your thinking. We're excited about this app. I'm really, it would be wonderful if we managed to contribute something to make the process of writing work better for people so that they can think more clearly. So what it does is it helps break down what you're writing into all these different sections. So there's like a sentence level of analysis and a paragraph level of analysis and so forth, so that you can concentrate on one part of the writing process at once, instead of trying to solve all the problems at the same time, which is so complex, it'll just bring you to a halt. So for example, you should write a really bad first draft with no care about grammar or any of that. Just get your ideas down. Doesn't even matter the order, but get the first draft down. And so you don't edit to begin with, you produce. And once you've produced, you can edit and then re-edit and so forth. But just separating those two things is extremely useful.
It's interesting you say this, because what's the story about you when a guy on Quora asked you a question about rules of life and you came up with 42, you posted it there and it got more shares and conversation, and it was, talked about, and that kind of led to the whole idea about your 12 rules of life and beyond,
Yeah, look
orders.
What came out of that.
Pretty powerful.
Absolutely. It's staggering, I mean, I spent about half an hour writing those, but I spent like God only knows how long doing the background thinking that enabled me to write them. And the consequences of that were just
powerful. Creative thinking just led to what it led to today. So if you like this little short clip from an interview I did, click over here to watch the entire interview. And please don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.